Stop whatever you're doing right now, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal why 90% of successful people feel completely empty inside, and the 3 decisions that will change everything. But first, a $50 million CEO just told me his life is meaningless. Let that sink in. Here's what's happening. You're about to discover why your achievements feel hollow, why success hasn't brought satisfaction, and most importantly, what to do about it starting today. I've spent 40 years studying what makes people truly effective. Not just busy, not just successful, effective. There's a massive difference. And I've discovered something that will shock you. Most people live at 20% capacity. 20%. You're operating at 1/5 of your potential. Today, that changes. But here's the first truth that'll hit you like a brick. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Read that again. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Listen carefully to what I'm about to say. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Simple? Yes. Revolutionary? Absolutely. But here's the problem. 92% of you don't know what your main thing is. You're climbing ladders of success, but the ladder is against the wrong wall. Think about this morning. What did you do first? Check email? Rush to meetings? React to other people's urgencies? That's not living. That's existing. I'll prove it to you. Answer this honestly. When was the last time you did something that truly mattered? Not urgent, not deadline-driven, something that moved you closer to who you're meant to be. Can't remember? That's the problem. Now, imagine your funeral. I'm serious. Stay with me here. This is where everything shifts. Picture the scene. Who's there? What are they saying? Not about your job title, not about your bank account, about you, about how you made them feel, about the difference you made. Here's what hits hard. The gap between those funeral words and your daily actions. That gap? That's your work. That's your opportunity. That's where transformation lives. Begin with the end in mind. This isn't just planning. It's reverse engineering your entire existence. Most people are wandering through life with no destination. Then they wonder why they feel lost. But watch what happens next. This is where 90% of people fail. The vision is clear. Monday comes. Old patterns take over. The urgent drowns the important. Sound familiar? So here's why. You're confusing motion with progress. You're climbing ladders at record speed. But stop. Is your ladder against the right wall? Let me tell you about Rebecca. Brilliant architect. Hadn't designed anything meaningful in 5 years. Why? Fear. Fear of discovering she wasn't as talented as she hoped. Know what fear really is? False evidence appearing real. Rebecca was choosing the pain of unfulfilled potential over the risk of imperfect action. 6 months later, she sent me her first design. Not perfect, but real. She pushed through fear and discovered this truth. The pain of action is temporary. The pain of regret is permanent. First things first. 3 words that change everything, but implementing them requires something most won't give: the courage to say no. No to good opportunities, no to urgent demands, no to everyone's priority except your own. Here's an exercise that will transform your life. Write down everything you did yesterday. Everything. Now mark each item. A, for activities aligned with your deepest values. B, for busy work. C, for other people's priorities. Shocking, isn't it? Most people live their entire lives in categories B and C, then wonder why category A, fulfillment, eludes them. Let me tell you exactly when this hit me. Years ago, during a family vacation, I brought work, always brought work. My 10-year-old daughter watched me typing. Then she asked the question that changed my life. "Dad, are we important to you?" "Of course," I said, still typing. "Then why do you look at that screen more than us?" Stop. Let that sink in. When did you last choose presence over productivity? That night changed everything. Not because I made a wish, because I made a decision. There's a massive difference. Here's what I discovered, and this will transform how you see everything. It's called inside-out living. Most people try to change from outside in. New job, new relationship, more money. Then they'll be happy, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. And you know it. To change, it starts with private victories. The stuff nobody sees. Waking up early when you'd rather sleep. Having the conversation you've avoided for months. Choosing patience when anger feels justified. Watch this pattern. It's everywhere. The businessman who can negotiate million-dollar deals but can't navigate a simple argument with his wife. The mother who manages a household perfectly but can't manage her own dreams. The leader who inspires thousands but can't inspire himself. Why? Because they're trying to win publicly before winning privately. It's like trying to harvest before you plant. Impossible. Private victories precede public victories. This isn't motivational fluff. It's law, as real as gravity. You can't violate it. You can only illustrate it. But here's where it gets interesting. Watch this pattern everywhere. I worked with an executive, multi-millionaire. Couldn't connect with his teenage son. Kept buying expensive gifts, elaborate vacations. Nothing worked. Know why? His son didn't want stuff. He wanted his dad. Present, available, real. This executive was winning everywhere except where it mattered most. He'd mastered the art of doing, but failed at the art of being. This is the tragedy I see everywhere. People winning the outer game while losing the inner one. Managing companies, but not emotions. Building empires, but not relationships. Now here's the breakthrough moment. Are you ready for this? Between every single thing that happens to you and how you respond, there's a gap, a space. Most people don't even know it exists. But in that gap lives your freedom. Something happens. Before you react, you have a choice. But we're on autopilot, reacting from old wounds, old patterns. Stop. Use the gap. Choose your response. This is where everything changes. Let me share something that will revolutionize your relationships. It's the most violated principle in human interaction, and it's destroying your connections. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Revolutionary principle. But nobody does it. Know why? Because real listening is the ultimate act of respect. And respect requires something most people won't give. Temporary suspension of your own agenda. I watched a couple, married 23 years, complete strangers. She talks. He waits to argue. He talks. She prepares her rebuttal. Nobody's listening. Everyone's defending. So I gave them one simple rule. Repeat what your partner said until they agree you understood. You should have seen the resistance. Why? Because real listening means abandoning your position. But here's what happened when they finally did it. Breakthrough. Not because they agreed, because they understood. First time in years. You want to transform any relationship? Stop talking. Start listening. Not to reply, to understand. Watch what happens. It's magic. This applies everywhere. Ready for another game changer? Think win-win. Not compromise where everyone loses a little. Creating solutions where everyone wins big. But here's the catch. It requires abundance thinking. Most people live in scarcity. They think your success means their failure. That's prison. Let me prove it. I knew a manager. Hoarded every piece of information. Kept his team in the dark. Know what happened? Team failed. Projects crashed. He blamed them. Dead crisis hit. Forced him to share everything. Trust his team. Admit he needed them. And watch what happened next. Everything changed. Not just results, relationships, culture. Him. When he let go of scarcity, abundance showed up. Here's the principle. There's enough success for everyone. Enough recognition. Enough love. Enough achievement. The pie isn't fixed. You can make it bigger. But most people are so busy protecting their slice, they never realize they could have the whole bakery. Synergize. Sounds like corporate speak? It's not. It's magic. 1 + 1 = 3, or 10 or 100. But only when people feel safe being themselves. Look at most teams. They're not teams. They're groups of people protecting territory, playing politics, competing internally. All that wasted energy could create miracles. I consulted with a tech company. Brilliant individuals. Collective mediocrity. Why? No psychological safety. Everyone performed. Nobody created. We changed one thing. Made it safe to fail. Safe to suggest wild ideas. Safe to be wrong. Know what happened? Innovation exploded. Not because we added talent, because we released it. The same people, different environment, exponential results. That's synergy. But it requires trust. And trust requires vulnerability. And vulnerability requires courage. But here's the principle everyone ignores. And it's killing you. Sharpen the saw. What does that mean? Simple. You're the saw. But you're cutting constantly, never stopping to sharpen. Getting duller, working harder, achieving less. A woodcutter spent 6 hours cutting wood, produced 10 logs. Another spent 5 hours cutting, 1 hour sharpening, produced 20 logs. Same effort, double results. That's the power of renewal. Physical renewal. Mental growth. Emotional resilience. Spiritual connection. Not optional. Essential. Not selfish. Strategic. You can't give what you don't have. Read that again. You can't give what you don't have. But look at your calendar. Where's the time for renewal? Where's the space for growth? You schedule meetings. You schedule deadlines. Do you schedule? Here's what I tell leaders. If you're too busy to sharpen the saw, you're too busy to succeed. Period. Now here's the truth bomb. These aren't just 7 habits. They're not techniques. They're character. And character isn't built in comfort zones. Character is built in moments of choice. When you're tired, but choose discipline. When you're angry, but choose patience. When you're hurt, but choose forgiveness. Watch this. The world changes at lightning speed. Technology, markets, everything. But principles? Principles are eternal. Gravity doesn't care about your opinion. Neither does integrity, or trust, or growth. Trust is the glue of life. My son Stephen discovered this. Everything speeds up with trust. Everything slows down without it. But trust isn't given. It's earned. Choice by choice. Action by action. Day by day. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Organizations spend millions on strategy. But strategy without trust, that's manipulation. Leadership without trust, coercion. Relationships without trust, just arrangements. I worked with a company, great strategy, zero trust. Employees did just enough not to get fired. Company paid just enough so they wouldn't quit. Both sides losing, both sides wondering why. We focused on one thing, building trust. Starting with leadership, radical transparency, admitted mistakes, shared credit, kept commitments, small things, huge impact. 18 months later, same strategy, different results. Productivity up 40%, turnover down 60%. Trust was the difference. Trust is always the difference. Building trust requires one thing, congruence. Your values matching your actions. Your private behavior matching your public face. Most people are actors. Different person at work, different at home. Different alone. That's exhausting, and it's why you feel empty. Here's an exercise. Write down your 5 core values. Now track your time for a week. How much time went to activities aligned with those values? The gap between values and actions is the gap between who you are and who you could be. Private victories precede public victories. The work nobody sees determines what everybody sees. The promises you keep to yourself enable keeping promises to others. But we want it backwards. Public success without private discipline. Recognition without character. Results without roots. Let me tell you about morning routines. Not the Instagram version. The real version. The champions I've studied all have one thing in common. They win their mornings. Not with perfection, with intention. They don't just wake up, they wake up for something. Exercise, meditation, reading, planning. They invest in themselves before the world makes withdrawals. You want to change your life? Change your morning. You want to change your morning? Change your evening. Go to bed like someone who has something important to wake up for. Listen, Viktor Frankl survived concentration camps. Lost everything, freedom, family, dignity, everything except one thing, the power to choose his response. He said, when we can no longer change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. In the worst circumstances imaginable, he found meaning, purpose, even joy. If he could find choice in hell, What's your excuse in your comfortable life, your manageable problems, your abundant opportunities? What's your excuse for living reactively? Here's the answer: you have none, but have only choices. But here's the big one. Ready? Will you live inside out or outside in? Principles or pressures? Your deepest values or your greatest fears? Choose now, not tomorrow. Now. This isn't theory. This is right now, this moment. When your alarm rings tomorrow, and everything in you wants 5 more minutes. When truth might cost you in that meeting. When your child needs you, but work calls. Push yourself. But here's the key. Push in the right direction. Not toward more achievement, toward alignment. Not more success, more significance. Not more having, more being. Let me tell you what significance looks like. It's the teacher who makes $30,000 a year but changes lives. It's the mother who never makes headlines but raises children who do. It's the leader who builds people, not just profits. Significance isn't about size. It's about service. It's not about getting. It's about giving. Not about being successful. It's about being valuable. Make it happen. Through principle, not pressure. Through faith, not force. Through inspiration, not manipulation. But making it happen requires clarity, crystal clarity, about what matters, about what lasts, about what you're really after. Most people chase success and wonder why they catch emptiness. They're fishing for fulfillment with the wrong bait. Success is getting what you want. Fulfillment is wanting what you get. Significance is giving what you have. Remember the CEO from the beginning? 6 months later, he called. Same office, same title, same money, but transformed. I started listening, he said, really listening to my wife, kids, team, myself. Everything changed. What changed? His paradigm, his priorities, his practices. He stopped chasing success and started creating significance. The paradox? His business exploded. But more importantly, he came alive. This is available to you right now. Not when conditions improve, not when you have time, not when fear goes away. Now. But choosing isn't enough. You need systems, structures that support values, habits that embody principles. That's the bridge between intention and impact. Start with one habit, just one. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before you check email, check in with yourself. Ask 3 questions. What am I grateful for? What am I committed to? Who can I serve today? Simple questions. Profound impact. They shift your focus from getting to giving, from scarcity to abundance, from fear to love. Love is a verb, not a feeling, an action, a choice. The people who push themselves to love when they don't feel it discover something. The feeling follows the action, always. I see this in marriages that last, not because feelings never wavered, because commitment never did. In businesses that thrive, not because challenges stopped, because values held firm. What's your purpose? Not your goals, your purpose. Goals have deadlines. Purpose has direction. Goals achieve. Purpose evolves. Goals serve you. You serve purpose. And here's how to find it. Ask yourself, what breaks your heart? What injustice makes you angry? What problem do you see that you feel called to solve? Your purpose lives at the intersection of your talents and the world's needs. But purpose without push is just potential. You must act daily, consistently, especially when you don't feel like it. Especially then. Here's what destroys me. Deathbed regrets aren't about what people did. They're about what they didn't do. No, didn't say, didn't risk, didn't live. They realized too late that fear is a liar, that perfect time never comes, that waiting for ready means waiting forever, that the pain of discipline weighs ounces, the pain of regret weighs tons. Which are you choosing? You still have time, but here's the secret. Time isn't what you think. Time is fixed. Energy is renewable. Attention is directable. Choice is always available. The question isn't what will you do someday? It's what will you do today, this hour, this moment. Life isn't lived in someday. It's lived now. I'll leave you with this. A man asked his mentor, "How long will it take me to master these principles?" The mentor replied, 10 years. The man said, "That's too long. What if I work twice as hard?" The mentor smiled. "Then it will take 20 years. Why? Because push without purpose leads to burnout. Force without flow leads to frustration. Achievement without alignment leads to emptiness. Push yourself in the right direction, toward growth, not just goals. Service, not just success. Meaning, not just money. Life, not just living. Make it happen, but understand what it really is. It's not what they told you. It's what remains when everything else falls away. It's who you become while doing. It's the legacy living in hearts you touch. Listen, the tragedy isn't that life is short. The tragedy is we wait so long to start living it. Don't wait. Your life is happening now. The gap between who you are and who you could be is real, but it's not permanent. It's space, waiting for your choices, starting with the next one. What will you choose?